Welcome into Week 4 of 3304 Kickoff from the Moss Arts Center in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm Jake Lyman, my co-host today, Tyler Katz, as we get you all set for Virginia Tech and Boston College Saturday night in Lane Stadium. Tyler, Hokies come into the game 2-1, Boston College at 3-1. Virginia Tech has found a way to get through these first 3 games, but they've been shorthanded in every one due to COVID-19.
Yeah, in the Hokies' first 3 games this season, they've had double-digit players ineligible due to COVID-19 concerns. Most of that blow coming to their secondary, which got exposed last week against North Carolina in their air raid offense. But the Hokies hope to have a full-strength team this week against the Eagles to propel them to victory.
It's really been a tough time for the Hokies through these first couple of weeks. Coach Justin Fuente said they're getting players back on Friday from the protocols, and they have to be ready to go Saturday and play up to 70 snaps. That could be tough against a really surprising Boston College team. They come in at 3-1, but just 6-7 last year under Steve Addazio. They moved on from him, brought in Jeff Hafley from Ohio State. He spent time coaching in the NFL as well, a really big-name hire for these Eagles, and he's done a great job for Boston College, a huge win in overtime against Pitt last week. And a lot of their success does have to do with Phil JURKOVEC. The transfer quarterback from Notre Dame has come in and electrified this Eagles team. For more on that, here's our Nick Brown.
Well, thank you, Jake. The Boston College Eagles have been known for years now as a team with a consistent running game. This year is different. Transfer quarterback from Notre Dame, Phil JURKOVEC, has transformed this offense into a high-flying attack. JURKOVEC, in his first 4 starts for the Eagles, has passed for 1,181 yards, 8 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. Under new head coach Jeff Hafley, the Eagles' offense has turned a complete 180. The solid wide receiver core, led by Zay Flowers, has really stepped up this season. Flowers racked up 3 touchdowns and 162 yards in the Eagles' win against Pitt last week. Now for the Hokies, they returned some key starters on defense as they gear up for their homecoming clash against Boston College. But will it be enough?
Thanks, Nick. Now on to some matchups to watch. Jake, what are you going to look for in Saturday's match between the Hokies and the Eagles?
Well, I'm going to be looking at the guys who are protecting Phil JURKOVEC. We just talked about him. Well, the guys up front have struggled so far. It hasn't been the typical Boston College offensive line performance, even though the talent is there. You have Tyler Vrabel at right tackle, son of Mike Vrabel, who's the current head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And then at center, you have Alec Lindstrom, whose brother was taken a few years ago in the first round. So there is a lot of talent on this line, but they've given up 16 sacks in 4 games. And the Hokies' pass rush is dominant so far. They've had 2 games with 6 or more sacks, up to 14 total on the year. They've been dominating pass rushers. It started with Amari Barno and Emmanuel Belmar, both with 3 sacks each. And don't forget about the transfer Justice Reed, 2 by himself. So it's going to be a big matchup there. We'll see if the Boston College offensive line can protect Phil JURKOVEC.
Meanwhile, on Boston College's defensive line, they're going to have to step up big to take on Virginia Tech's running game. For Boston College this season, they've allowed 134 rushing yards per game. Khalil Herbert for Virginia Tech averaging just under 150. So it's going to be a rushing battle between the Eagles and Khalil Herbert and the Hokies. Khalil Herbert going to be helped by a new quarterback under center for Virginia Tech. And for more on that, we go to Jackson Didlake.
Thanks, Tyler. The Virginia Tech Hokies offense is set to look very different this week as Hendon Hooker will finally make his first start behind center. Hooker previously did not dress against NC State to start the season before backing up Braxton Burmeister against Duke. Hooker came in last week for Burmeister and was able to bring a new energy and spark to the offense despite the loss to the Tar Heels. Last year, Hooker was the Hokies' starting passer and started the season 6-0. Now he's going to have to look to try to complement Khalil Herbert and Raheem Blackshear in the running game for the Hokies. Guys?
Thanks, Jackson. Now it is time for our keys to the game for Virginia Tech and Boston College. I'll start with the Hokies' keys. On offense, I think Hooker really needs to get Trey Turner and James Mitchell involved. Mitchell has had a big impact so far, leads the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, but Trey Turner will be the key. He's supposed to be big play Trey and make all the plays down the field. If they can get him involved, get some big plays to Turner, I think that's going to be a huge impact for the Hokies. On the defensive side of the ball, Phil JURKOVEC has been compared to Ben Roethlisberger by players, Coach Fuente, everybody is saying that he is like Big Ben, and that is because he is so hard to bring to the ground. The Hokies' defensive pass rush has to be able to get to JURKOVEC and get him to the ground if they want to win this game.
Meanwhile, for Boston College, their keys are going to rely heavily on offense and sophomore Zay Flowers. He's been elite so far this season, including 3 touchdown receptions last week against the Panthers. Also for Boston College, they need to force Virginia Tech to pass the ball. It's been no secret that Virginia Tech has been relying on the running game in Khalil Herbert and Raheem Blackshear, and now with Hendon Hooker, a running quarterback, under center, that adds even more of a threat to Virginia Tech's run game. For Boston College, they need to force Virginia Tech to make passes down the field, and that's where they're going to make their stops.
Definitely going to be a good one between Boston College and Virginia Tech, and that brings us in to our predictions. Tyler and I aren't calling the game, so we will make our predictions here in a little bit. But first, let's send it back out to our reporters. Nick Brown has his prediction first.
I think the Boston College Eagles offense will be putting points on the board. However, I think the Hokies will outscore them in a track meet. I get Virginia Tech winning 35-24 here in Blacksburg.
Virginia Tech Boston College is likely going to be a battle in the trenches of big men between defensive lines and offensive lines. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the run game, where I give Khalil Herbert and Raheem Blackshear the edge. I have the Hokies winning 31-24.
Thanks, guys. As for me, Virginia Tech has been in a lot of high-scoring games so far this season. This game's going to be no different on both sides of the football, but I have the Hokies coming out in the end 38-31.
Well, you guys are all on the Hokies. I will lone wolf it and go with the Eagles. I think this Boston College hot start will continue for at least one more week. Jeff Hafley has had these guys ready to go every single week, and I think the Eagles pull it out 31-27.
It should be a fun night from Lane Stadium, an 8 p.m. kickoff between the Boston College Eagles and the Virginia Tech Hokies. For Jackson Didlake, Nick Brown, and Jake Lyman, I'm Tyler Katz. Thanks for watching 3304 Kickoff.